Yo, what is up, YouTubers? I still need a catchphrase for the potatoes. Anyway, so I made a little short video talking about endurance. Here's some scriptures for you. Endurance. Hebrews chapter 12, 1 and 2. James chapter 1, verse 2 and 4. And Romans 5, 3 through 5. And it's not just to endure, but it's how the endurance blesses you, stretches you, grows you, and it ultimately leads to salvation. Because, like, okay, there's a process that you have to go through. So you plant a seed, and whatever type of seed is what you're going to get, whether that's corn or peas or, watermelons, cantaloupe, asparagus, whatever. And then there's different types of seed. So sometimes you want to plant your seeds, like plant your corn and then plant your tomato right there close to it. So as your corn stalks grow, your tomatoes have something to attach to as they vine and grow up and stuff like that. The Indians used to do that a lot. They had the corn and the tomatoes and the vine plants right there together. You could also do corn and your cantaloupe pretty close to each other too, and it gives it something to vine and attach to. Anyway, it's all good until the wind gets real high, then the tornado just ruins everything. Shout out to the people dealing with the tornado and the fire. Man, we're praying for you. Maybe this is for you guys. Get your mind off of it for a little bit. I'm driving down the road, bringing provisions and making sure the supply chain's together so y'all can get your stuff. I would rather be there with you, but I don't get to. My colleague's more of a keep it steady kind of thing. Anyway, the endurance leads to your growth. Okay, so you're planting the seeds, then you gotta, maintain the garden. All right, in this process, you're gonna encounter all these problems and stuff, and grow in your own walk. You know what I mean? So if I plant the seeds of forgiveness, and then I try to, eventually I'll see that other people are human, and then I'll realize that they're not even mad at me. They're just taking it out on me type of deal, and then is that right or wrong? Kind of doesn't matter. How I let it affect me matters. So if I switch from, violent reaction or a verbal negative reaction to a reaction of kindness and care, like nothing will give you that growth like taking care of a horse or a hurt dog. You really got to be careful because they're hurt, they're scared, and everything like that. They'll bite you or whatever, and they're lashing out at you, but it's just because they're hurt. And I've coined the phrase hurt dog syndrome when there's I'm the one that's getting bit, but it ain't me. But it took me a long time to figure that out, and actually a hurt dog bit through my thumbnail on Christmas or whatever. And I was at the neighbor's house. We were poor, but the neighbor had a little bit of money, so they had a Nintendo, and I didn't get to play because the dog had bit through my thumbnail. And my reaction when the dog bit me was I kicked this little dog, and then I felt bad about kicking the dog, So I suffered through that lesson, carry it to this day. You know what I mean? So in your endurance, I want to tell you this. Don't waste your suffering. If ever you heard anything I've said, figure out salvation for yourself through studying the Bible yourself. Nothing will ever do more for you wrapping your head around salvation study some more, man, it turns into a joyful thing. And then when you find a similar person hurting in a similar way, because you've been there and done that, you pulled that log out of your eye, you can see that speck. You know what I mean? And the Bible talks about, there's a part there that says, hypocrite, pull the log out of your own eye so you can see to get the speck out of somebody else's eye. Well, that also implies, instead of being all negative about it, there's like, I want to call it the Baptist version, the Baptist outlook, where it's like, by God, it's real foghorn, leghorn style attitude. Well, there's another attitude too where you're like, okay, and you yank and pull and scrape and suffer and grow for 20 years getting over this situation. Well, along the way, along that growth, you're going to find all these things as you're enduring this thing, as you're suffering through. My dad says it like this. He says, I suffered the slings and arrows. He'll be talking about what it took to, make payments on a house for 30 years, or, what it took to, stay awake to drive that trip or whatever, and he refers to it as suffering the slings and arrows, and which is remarkable to me because the guy doesn't read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what you're supposed to do. Like, God will show you. God will show you. People, I'm running way off track here, but if there's some dude on some island somewhere that's never read a Bible and never heard nothing or whatever like that, where'd the Bible come from, man? It was like the Holy Ghost speaking through people. If that person's got a heart for God and seeks God, why wouldn't the Holy Spirit be able to guide that island person into salvation? You see what I'm saying? If you're going to walk in His ways, you're going to walk in His ways. And one of His ways is He shows His children how to live. Like, that's what He does. That's why we call Him Father. To me, it's overwhelmingly basic. But I don't have that. I don't have that log nor speck in my eye. So I'm not real sure how to convince everybody how to get that out of their head. But there again, to quote my dad another time, some of these people are overeducated and completely ignorant. You know what I mean? They're like, Dad, that one time he said, I bet he's got 5 degrees, but he can't change a flat tire. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're all different. You know what I mean? But, you got to have some practicality about the way you're living and about these things you know. And especially when it comes to reading the Bible, like, how is that practically applying to your life? You know what I mean? What are you doing with these gifts that you've been given? Like, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. And when I'm out here driving around and I see these various things, it just, on the one hand, it makes me mad. On the other hand, it breaks my heart to see how much potential is just lost, and how the enemy is just tearing people apart, and then I see the people struggle with whether or not they're going to hell. And then, like, what even is hell? Is there torture and stuff and everything else like that? And then, like, what is Sheol? The place of the dead. Like, literally a place of the dead. Like, the place where the dead go. What is that? What was it before Jesus? What is it now? Very debatable. So when you find yourself in these debates, feel free to say, I don't know. And then when it's real specific, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one shall come to the Father except by me. That is a extreme statement. And if accurate, and I believe it is, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't getting out of this deal. And then, like, racial, religious dudes, you know, they all say something about Jesus. You know, the Buddha people thinks he's a Buddha. The freaking, you know, all these other religions. Even the early founding fathers of America, even though they were not believers, they spoke to the morals and ethics and the high quality. Like, he's just, Jesus as depicted in the Bible is a force in the earth that is unreconcilable. There's never been anything like it. You know what I mean? I hate to say it like Donald Trump. It's been so good. He lived a perfect life. Anyway, I would love to hear Donald Trump describe Jesus. I think he's the only one that can do it justice. Well, he ain't the only one, but I mean, the level of thank you, Lord, and yeah. Anyway, come on, Trump. Somebody get this to Trump. We want 45 minutes of Donald Trump ranting about Jesus. How good he is. Anyway, as we endure this stuff, that's another thing you're going to need. That's one of the arrows you want in your quiver is humor. You'll see these soldiers say these horrific jokes, but it helps, you know what I mean? It's like, and you know, truck driving's got some issues too, right? So I see this guy, and he's talking about this, that, and the other. He's got a channel, and I say things a trucker would say on there, and what they did, they blocked me for a whole day and took my comments down. They're like, if you keep talking this way, we're going to take your channel away. I'm just like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and I quoted, somebody robbed a store with a snake. And I quoted that movie, Snakes on a Plane. That's all I did. That's all I thought it was funny. And another guy got in trouble because this guy does trucker thieves. That's what he says it. Well, one story was they robbed the store with snakes, and the next story was the guy had fuel, and they went and put the other fuel in the tank, so they got rid of that fuel. The only dump was, you know, a long ways away. So this guy just opened the valve and drove around, and just spilled fuel for like 5 miles in a creek and everything. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm tired of this. I tried to clean it up. I'm tired of this MFK planes on this MFK. You know, I'm tired of these MFK snakes on this MFK plane, comma, fuel. You know, or something like that. It was funnier when I wrote it out. Anyway, maybe it wasn't funny at all. And anyway, so I can't leave no comments on the YouTube. You know, and I know what it is. It's an excuse because there's probably 30 to 60 comments a day that I leave on people that talk about Jesus. And I'm like, you know, I found, one of the other things I found during endurance is I was down there in Florida, I was roofing and hot tar roofing, so I'd take off, go to church, and I had tar on my boots, so I had to take my boots off, so I didn't want to get stuff in the carpet, right? So I just take my boots, plumb off, and go in the store. And when I went in the storehouse of souls, when I go into the church, I go in there barefoot or whatever, and then of course my Bible's all beat up, you know what I mean? And I just kept finding flaw. I couldn't find a church I liked. Because it's like, well, this was like this. Well, you know, the music's kind of like this. These people are kind of Catholic. You know, they're up there now. They're drinking wine. I don't know. This one over here, like the carpet's like weird. You know, like you walk in there, you get back getting dizzy because of the carpet. And I was thinking about that, and it was after church. I was walking. I just plainly heard, just plain as a bell, why don't you find something you do like? And I was just like, it scared me. I mean, it really did. When they say fear of the Lord, when you encounter God, you will not have any trouble fearing God. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, it's a natural reaction that people. When it says every knee will bow, buddy, your knee will bow, guaranteed, guaranteed. I don't care who you think you are, your knee will bow. Anyway, went back to, I was doing a circuit, like go over here, over there, over here, over there. I'd been to like 5 churches, and so it took over a month to make it back. And then what I did was they'll catch you at the door on the way out, and they'll shake your hand or whatever. That preacher, he'll sneak off. Then the other guy will be up there talking this, that, and the other, whatever. He goes around the building, he goes up there by the thing, and then when you walk out, they grab your hand and shake. I call it glad hand. They'll give you a glad hand, and glad to see you. So he shook my hand. I just held on to his. I just started praying. I said, Father God, I just thank you right now for this, that, and the other. Whatever I see that was good in the service, I just left out any bullshit, any opinions that were not, any negative anything. And I just said what, in my opinion, was great about that place. Not just the good stuff, but just great, because it keeps you kind of small. I've been known to talk way too much. And, and it was training for the 5-minute ministry. You know what I mean? And by the time I made it all the way back around, I go to this church, I'm like, hey man, you guys got great singers. 5 or 6 weeks later, I come back, the choir has doubled. They got like a professional dude, figured out, when to do this, when to do that, you know what I mean? And they're like, their worship just was off the chart. And I go to the next one, and that one had like an awesome Bible study, the Bible school thing, and they were just so engaged and just, everything that I thanked God for what they did right in the presence of that leader, the leader of the congregation. Dude, it grew the church, man. It was the fertilizer. Some dig, some fertilizer. There's a parable, it says that the guy that owned the vineyard, he's walking the land, and the guy that was running the place, so they're walking through the vineyard looking at the trees. They see a tree that's not producing, and he says, hey man, let's dig this one up and put a new one in there. And he says, well, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get a new one producing. Let me dig around this one and fertilize and everything, and we'll see if it starts putting out fruit. And if not, we'll dig it up and throw it in the fire. And so he digs it up, and he digs around it, and he fertilizes and everything, and then it starts putting on fruit or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's like us, man. Like God and Jesus are walking through the vineyard. What are the trees? What are we producing? You know what I mean? And does the tree like it when it gets dug up around and uprooted? You know what I mean? That must not be comfortable for the tree. You know what I mean? And then but the pruning and the fertilization and the aeration and all this stuff that it takes to put on fruit. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, now this is very applicable. A lot of times your plants won't produce unless they think they're dying. I don't know how many times, well, back in the day, like we would, where the stem of the tomato plant would come out, Mom showed us how to pinch that off, and then 2 limbs would come out of one. So we end up with a whole bush of tomatoes instead of this whole scraggly vine with here's a limb. You can actually prune that and train that thing, and then you can actually take the main stem and lean it over with a fence and tie it, and it'll grow up, lean it, grow it, lean it, grow it. You know what I mean? And then just keep picking at it every so often to make them shoots double, and then that doubles off of that, and then that one double, and then double. So your volume of tomato, like you had to, when you do it like this, you got to do it next to a fence because it gets so heavy that the stem can't support it, right? So, which is also a good reason to plant it next to your corn. Anyway, in the context of these churches and stuff like that, these worshipers were going other places and taking worship with them. These studiers were going other places and taking the study with them. know what I mean? And I suffered that. Okay, so we were working 7 days a week out of town. And because the boss man and everybody understood that I wanted to go to church. And then because I outworked everybody, they put up with it. But I had a smaller check. And then I had to go and do or whatever. Like, hey, I think I was outworking everybody because they were all tired, by the way. It ain't because I'm special. It's because I took the day off. Okay? So, like, God created us to work 6 days and take a day off. And you'll outperform everybody else because you had a rest cycle. I don't care if it's your brain or if you're a physical laborer or you're a truck driver. You know, you're stacking boxes on a dock. You know what I mean? You're putting pieces together on an assembly line, whatever. You know what I mean? You're writing speeches for Congress. I don't care what you're doing. You take a day off and do it God's way, you will excel. And in the process of taking that leap from man's way to God's way, you're going to suffer. And that's the part you have to endure. You know what I mean? So this endurance leading up to salvation is, I mean, God's looking for best. And, you know, you want to talk about fourth dimensional chess and quantum computing. I mean, there's only one alpha male. That's God. He is the alpha and the omega. And he will give us his attributes if we act appropriately. So the law is how to act appropriately. Okay, now when the church had grown to the point that, you know, Jesus can come and fulfill some stuff, and then at that point in history, the Gentiles be brought the gospel. At that point, it worked out exactly the way it needed to work out, and the wisdom of that and everything else like that. So when you're going through life and you're like, you know, you're a kid, you're like, I'm never going to get out of school, you know, and then you get out of school and it's just like, what do you mean I had to work for 40 years? I think everybody has that moment. Somewhere in the teenage years, it'll dawn on you that you're going to have to work for 40 years. You know what I mean? And if you're real lucky, you'll have somebody think that out for you before you're, you know, cognitive enough to figure it out yourself, if you're lucky. Anyways, you're going to endure these things. You suffered the slings and arrows of, you know, elementary school, so you can read, you can write, you can do a little bit of basic math and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And the ones that can't, I mean, look at how hindered their life is. And they can go through it right now. They say that when you're a little old kid that you learn stuff faster. You know what I mean? Because your brain's growing and stuff like that. And then there's a phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you're not a dog, okay? You can learn new stuff. I was talking to my dad 2 days ago. He's thinking about going back to become a constitutional lawyer. And he's been working with the online class. He's had, to quote Dad, he's had more strokes than Tiger Woods. And, you know, he's had multiple heart attacks and everything else like that. He's got one arm. And when he's talking to me about this, he says, well, I won't be able to write out my work. I said, Dad, I think they do it all on the typing deal now. He said, yeah, I can get a typewriter. I was like, no, you can just get a computer and just send emails and stuff. I said, I don't think you even have to print stuff out nowadays. And he was like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, I can do that. You know what I mean? But this dude, this is after a 15-minute conversation of him quoting the Constitution and giving a accurate. He talked about it and everything like that, and then I looked it up or whatever, and I'm like, this dude is spot on. Just, it really amazed me. And you know, he's a tricky fella. I'm telling you right now, he'll really blow your mind every now and then. And he blew my mind yesterday. And I told him, I said, hey, look, you know, if you need some tuition or where, I said, Dad, I'll put you through college. That's the least I can do. You know what I mean? And and it's worth it for me just to know that he's applying himself in a way that is giving him a full life. You know what I mean? Like, how else could, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? I'm going to make this thing happen for him, for my uncle, for my wife, for Dennis, for my kids. You know what I mean? Whatever it takes. I'm working on an angle right now to, you know, it's going to take me thousands of dollars in years to give away stuff. And you know, we're working on setting up a deal for, you know, that nobody's helping the veterans, right? Well, if it's a SHTF situation, it'd be nice to have somebody around with some training, right? And then, like, if all these people are homeless, it's been training and going overseas and this, that, and the other, and now they come back and they got something wrong with them or whatever. Well, you know, I've been sheltering people for as far back as I can remember, and it always made sense, especially working the cruise and stuff like that, to just get an apartment instead of a hotel and just rent the rooms out to the rest of the guys. And that always made a lot of sense. Well, now where I'm at, it's a little different because I'm out here on the road. And then my wife and Dennis is there on the property. And then we got the apartment. And we're trying to figure out how to do a something to house the veterans and get them on their feet and everything like that. And I was watching a good man, and they're doing some stuff, getting their house in order and preparing a room for guests and preparing an old beater car to load out and stuff like that. I was watching that and I was just like, they are so on the path. And like, even that individual, like a year or so ago, I know I was supposed to find a truck and give to him or whatever like that. And it didn't pan out. But through prayer, it panned out. Like, anyway. So pray. If you know there's something you're supposed to do, pray about it. Okay? Because I might see a need and I can't fulfill that need. You know what I mean? But I know I'm supposed to. And I'll pray about that. God, work this out, whatever, this, that, and the other. And I ask God to pick up my slack where I'm letting God down. So in this, for instance, this old boy, good dude and everything else. And I knew I was supposed to provide him with a truck. And then I'm not financially in the spot where I can do that. And then I prayed about it or whatever. Next time I see the dude, he's got a new truck. And I'm just like, thank you, God, for filling the gap in where I could not. You know what I mean? And then looking back, you know, when I consider the heartache of feeling like I was letting God down, not giving this guy a freaking, you know, 3,500 utility box truck. You know what I mean? Next time I'm seeing it, he's driving a 3,500 utility box truck, and I'm like, what are you showing me here, God? And it's walking with His heart. Hey, you want to talk about endurance, dude? You want to talk about endurance? Even right now, you know, I have to endure the fact that I don't get to. I'll tell you what, that thing, it'll light up and blind you while you're driving at night, and then when you have the thing on, it'll turn off. They just constantly the opposite. It's a hassle factor. You know what I mean? Anyways, okay. All that to say, oh man, the time is short, and you better get right while you can. say get right. I'm just saying take it to the next level. Wherever you're at, start increasing your prayer. Wherever you're at, start increasing your prayer. If you're praying for 6 hours a day, I am not saying that you need to pray for 7. That's not what I'm saying. As a matter of fact, in that case, I would say cut it back to an hour and a half and actually mean it. Like, how can you be so idle that you spend 6 hours a day in prayer? I don't know. Seems like there's some more practical stuff to be done or whatever. You might be talking just to hear your head rattle. Because I've done that. Like, I understand that. You know what I mean? I've rambled on in my boredom. And, you know, various places, suffering prisons and plastic prisons, driving down the road, you know. This truck is like a plastic prison. Anyway, there is some guerrilla gardening that's kind of cool, though. I do like that. You know what I mean? Like the, I think the next is I'm going to start rogue flocks of animals. I'm not sure how to do that because, like, I kind of got to be by the highway, you know what I mean? And then if I'm going to just like release the Judas goat or whatever to populate the woods, like, not sure how this is going to work out. But, you know, if the apocalypse is coming up or whatever like that, and the power grid goes down, like, how can I, you know, help America? Well, you know, let my sheep will go, I guess. I think this is the year of the meat lamb. I think I'm gonna start releasing flocks of animals into the wilderness. Not really sure how it's gonna work out. I haven't put that much thought in it, but I think that's my next calling. Anyway, so. Take it to the next level. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Just whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, if you run over a chicken driving down the road, it's not going to hurt your car. Right? So maybe I just need to start just, you know, hatching out chickens and just releasing them into the wild. Yeah, because the chicken will take care of itself. I wonder how many chickens you need to let go at the same time for there to be a wild flock of chickens. I think that's the way to go. Because they have eggs and everything, and they roost, and they're pretty self-sufficient. I don't want to release cats. I know you can eat them, but nobody does. So, except the Chinese restaurant. Have you ever seen a cat? I need to do a poll. How do you do that poll thing? Have you ever seen a cat near a Chinese restaurant? That food up there tastes like that because they put it all in the same trailer. So the frozen stuff thaws out and refreezes. That's why it tastes like rubber. It's real food. Anyways, take it to the next level. You've endured so much. You've suffered through so much. Look back at the worst day of your life. What did God give you? What did God give you? What did God give you? What did you suffer? What did God give Job? Look at the book of Job. What did God give Job? I ain't talking about at the end of the book. I'm talking about the day he lost his family. And he's in ashes in that whole process. You know what I mean? And look at your life. Look at your life. Are you there? In your head right now? Do you remember that tragedy? Pray and ask God to reveal to you your specific takeaway from that situation and every angle of it. He gave you a diamond that day with many cuts, many angles. You know what I mean? He gave you gold that day. What was it? What was it? I know for me, it got me closer to God. I know for for a lot of people, the enemy said, God did this to you. Somehow, you should be mad at God. And I'm going to tell you this. You can pause your emotion. It's been long enough. You can pause your emotion. When you think about it, you think about that hurt, you think about that pain, and you're mad at God. Pause that and say, God, okay, I've been mad at you for a long time, but I'm just going to set it on the shelf. I'm just going to take my bad, I'm just going to take it off, I'm going to hang it up. And yeah, I'm mad, but not right now. Show me. Show me. And be willing to hear whatever he says. You won't be mad no more. You don't have to get psychoanalyzed and eat a bunch of mushrooms and take pills from the psychiatrist and all this other kind of nonsense. You can eat a steak and a potato with some butter, some salt and pepper on this thing, and drink a gallon of water. Just repeat that for about a week. Because your body's nutrients and hydration levels out. You're bad, you get hung up. It's on the shelf. You're not bad. I'm going to set this on the shelf, God. You show me. I'm going to eat this steak. Give it about 7 days. Take notes of what he shows you. It'll blow your mind, dude. It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. Like, he is the great physician. He's a wonderful counselor. It is amazing. Like, those are his names. Like Bill and Robert are names. Like his Hebrew pronunciation. Provider, counselor, physician. He's everything. But you gotta position yourself to receive. If I'm out there on the football team and I don't show up to practice, I could be the best dude in the world, and the coach is gonna put me on the bench, and I ain't even gonna get to play in the game. I could be the best wide receiver. Jerry Rice could be going through high school again for some reason, and the coach will set him on the bench if he didn't show up to practice, because he's got to set certain standards for the team. You got to be a team player and all certain kind of stuff. You got to then run the plays, know the plays, then be qualified to be on the field, and then when the play's called, run the play, and you do the old button hook back and put yourself in the position to receive in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Put yourself in position to receive. Take your bad. See, I got bad on my mind. Here's my bad. I'm mad about it. And do this. Like, take it off. Like take it off. Here's the bad on my mind. I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to hang it on the blinker stalk. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to lay it on the dash. Okay? See? I'm going to lay it on the dash. All right? Now, my mind is open. Right? Now I'm going to eat steak and potato for a week and drink a gallon of water. Drink a gallon of water. What do they? Don't drink that. Don't drink the yellow water. See how the humor helps? Drink good, clean water. Show me, God. Show me. I suffered the death of my child. I did not decide to be a member of a cult. I did not decide. I thought people that read the Bible in the churches, I thought that was just some do-gooders club. I made fun of them. I did. later on in life, circumstances, you know, Oklahoma happens. It's a wild place. And then, next thing I know, you know, my son's dead. I've been drinking. I wind up in jail. Show me, God. Show me. And I wasn't mad at God because I took responsibility of my family. When I was a little kid, when my dad would go drive the truck, my dad would say, okay, you're the man of the house, and he would leave. I've been told that since I was 5. And I had, like, if you come through the door and tried to do something to my mom when I was 5, I would shoot you in the face. That was my training. I carried a gun when I was 5. I'm not even joking at all. Not even remotely close to exaggerating. None of that. I was in a truck in Delaware. Well, no need to tell stories. Anyway, in that moment my son's dead, all I knew was it's my fault. I could not get past that. But I wasn't mad at God. He gave me that guilt. So I never was like, I don't deserve to be in jail. I don't deserve this pain. I don't, you know, how dare you, God? I did not have that problem. So when you look at these people that's got these testimonies of how their life was so, you know, they were a crackhead or whatever, and now they're standing in front of the church talking about, I was from the guttermost to the uttermost, and by God, it's because they wasn't mad at God. Then you take this other person that did everything right and got screwed. And they're like, God, why'd you let that happen? You know what I'm saying? They're mad at God. They can't get over it. So there's your bonus of the day. That's a big deal right there. Take that salve, put it on your eyes. Take that bag. Take your technically, it's God's fault. Lay it down. Eat steak for a week. Take notes. You'll be amazed. All right, Rock Hill. Endure. Go get them.